Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. Hope you enjoy. Story number 1, Humans and Fire, written by Eddie. All of humanity's history can be defined as a simple, single principle. Fire. From even before they were human, they had fire. It was part of their very being. In the primordial ooze of their home planet, their oldest primogenitors took an endosymbiont within themselves that harnessed that terrible process of destruction and made it a fuel. They used the same process that could be consumed all life on the planet as fuel. They would oxidize consumed matter to provide fuel for their body. Then, they discovered the ability to make flame outside their body. All that they feared in the world was put into flame. The monsters that hid in the dark were burned out. The shadows were chased away. And so humanity grew, and they turned the flame into a tool. They used it to process food before consuming it, to extract more fuel. They burned their food twice, once outside their body, and once again inside. They used it to refine metals to make weapons and tools, but always flame was a weapon. Every primitive species uses sharp sticks as weapons. Humanity, they set those sticks on fire, for despite having it shackled within them and the fundamental part of their biochemistry, it could still harm them. Need to destroy something? Set it ablaze. Don't bother tearing it down, just burn it away. If a human was wounded, they would expose the wound to flame to seal it. And still, they progressed, and the flame came with them. Weapons now propelled by the flame. They used lenses and mirrors to make the flame light entire swaths of the sea, or to send messages between cities. And they wove this flame in their stories and legends. A gift from the gods, a purifying light, a weapon of the darkest forces. For them the flame was all things, the most beautiful and pure thing, a tool for the utter annihilation and the representation of evil. They knew, even in legend, that the star above them, their sun, was a flame. Stories such as Icarus, or legends of gods putting the flaming disk above them. They waged wars for lots of reasons, but often those reasons came down to who would burn, who had more to set on fire, or who had made more things processed by fire. They grew more, became capable of making mighty machines. And how did they power these machines? Did they use light or water power, which they had been using for a long while, or even harness the wind? No, they chose to use fire again. They harnessed the ultimate force of destruction and confined it, directed it and fettered it to work for them more. For them, the answer to all things was simply, can we do it with fire? And it was only when that failed did they move on to other things. Often did we use too much or too little fire. They stripped resources from their home planet, fuels created by millennia of geological process. And what did they do with it? They used fire to purify it, so that they could burn the fuels to make more fire for the machines that they built. They had discovered that there was power in the light, the wind, and the water, but they still used fire. When it came time to leave their planet and reach for the stars, what did they do? Did they build a sleek gravity drive or a graceful solar sails? They didn't even build the most basic of magnetar engines. No, they used fire. They built mighty cylinders of flame-refined metals and filled them full of the explosive fuels they loved so, and set them alight while sitting atop them. They chose to use fire and flame to hurl themselves into space. This was far earlier than any other species had achieved spaceflight, as ungraceful as it was. Less than a decade later, they carried their flame to a satellite about their planet, their moon, as they called it. Yet humanity has been reminded again and again that this is not a toy, but a force of nature, the raw manifestation of destruction. And what do they choose to do? Simply make better chains for the flames they so love. humanity discovered that all these flames had polluted their planet and was slowly choking it. So did they choose to use wind or light to power their planet? No. They looked up to the sky and saw the sun. They used to call it the big ball of fire. Well, not correct. They decided it was close enough. So they harnessed that. They made small suns, small balls of fire that could draw energy from. They chose to harness another of the primordial forces, one that was as close to fire as they could get away with. And so they come now, across the void, to us. They come upon vessels powered by the flames of the stars, fire that they caught at the dawn of their existence and tamed and trained throughout all of their history. So, if it is one thing that humans bring with them, it is the flame, tied to them from the earliest of their ancestors, and now used to drive them across the void of space. End of story. Story number 2. The Great Devourers, written by the British Tea Company. For the most part, space is quiet. A peaceful, endless void where twinkling stars in the distance are the only company for 1 billion miles. Here, a creature can easily lose himself in reflecting upon the vastness of the universe, or the grand design of what it is that propels existence forward. But right now, conundrums of philosophy would have to wait. Scientists were here, and they were solving problems, practical problems. For months, echoes had been heard from the edges of the galaxy. Enigmatic signals and communications had been picked up in foreign tongues and incomprehensible languages. As the months rolled by, the signals were getting louder. Sometimes so loud the entire planets had their communications flooded by the signal. Countless voices speaking, and a terrible cacophony that drove many poor souls to the brink, and many more to suicide. Something was out there. Something scratching, screaming, running, and something was that many, so many. Yet as the volume increased, comprehensiveness did not. Words spoken in a chorus of chaos that no translator could decipher, no linguist could piece together. It was here that the spot of the first strong and clear signal of what it was out there could finally be received. The result had been a disappointment. All of the most advanced translators and intelligent linguists had failed to decipher this black speech and was plaguing communications for an entire arm of the galaxy. So terrible was the signal that trade in many regions shut down completely. Some planets were cut off from vital trade that would sustain populations. Entire civilizations fell into chaos by the signal that was driving the entire arm of the galaxy into madness. And that was not even the worst to come. The day finally arrived when the invaders came. Across the void, the innumerable horde poured into the outer rim. Black ships that blotted out entire systems descended upon world after world, littering them with obscene creatures that slaughtered populations and cannibalized world after world, sucking all resources away until there was nothing but a barren rock. It took mere months for an entire rim worlds to fall. The invaders' sheer numbers was countless, their hunger unending. The rest of the galaxy would follow suit soon after. From the great arc ship Father Sol, Great Khan Hai Wang watched as the human horde's innumerable armada descended upon the hapless worlds below, rich with resources that would build new vessels, precious water that would fuel survival, and countless fleshy creatures and nutritious plants that would serve them as nourishment for the human people. A satisfied sigh breathed through him as he took a seat in his throne and smiled. The galaxy was a rich one, full of resources that would fuel the great horde's people for a millennia to come, long after they departed this galaxy in search of new feeding grounds. Humanity was growing. The countless billions of arc ships and their populations would need the resources of this galaxy, and the ones after in their wandering of the void. Whether or not cosmic storms or hostile creatures resisted, the human horde would endure. They will grow and live off the fat of every world, suckling the gifts of the universe one after another with the grandness of human efficiency, no matter what stood in their way. He was here, that the human race will feast again, like the last galaxy and the one before that. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 channel members and patrons: Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Lord Azrakal, Dragzoon WRE, Holly Sister, Ambrose Cattell, and Quantum Wednesday. Thank you very much.